Welcome back to the Bourbon Note, everybody. I'm Ben. We're getting to the end of the year, and that means list videos. Let's get into it. So towards the end of the year, most people in WhiskeyTube start putting out their, best of the year, worst of the year list videos. I've never actually done one of those. Every time I think about doing one, it just sounds exhausting. And so what I figured I'd do is kind of condense it, and instead of doing a few different list videos, I just make one list video with a bunch of different categories. And so before I get into my list, I am going to be challenging right here and now all of WhiskeyTube. Whoever sees this, I'm not going to go through all the names because one of the great problems to have from having this show is I've just made too many friends to list all in one video to challenge them and call them out individually. Again, that's a great problem to have. That's been one of the best parts about having this channel. So if you're watching this and you have a channel, please feel free to go ahead and do this same list and then tag me in your video. And if you're watching this and you don't have a channel, put your answers down in the comments below. So let's get into it. As I said, it's just going to be a series of categories, one answer for each category, nice and simple. So the first one is, what is a whiskey you were hunting for this year and actually found? For me, it is, bam, the Old Grandad 16-year. So I know that this bottle has not gotten a ton of love in reviews, but to be perfectly honest, I thought it was great. The moment I saw this announced, I saw it on Coming Whiskey on Instagram. Go follow, that's a great page if you're not following Coming Whiskey. The moment I saw this, I immediately wanted one. I didn't know what the price was when I saw it. I would have not guessed it was going to be as expensive as it was. But yeah, I saw the label on there, knew it was coming out this year, and that just piqued my interest, so this one was on my radar all year long. Then I found out the price, and I was kind of like, I don't know if I want to spend that much money. It runs in like the $180 to $200 range. And then actually just a couple weeks ago, I actually just came face to face with this bottle in the store, and I absolutely couldn't refuse. Paid $200 for it. Is it worth $200? I don't know, is anything. But I am still glad I bought one. I'm very happy with the purchase. I'm glad to have this on my shelf. And again, I think it's a great whiskey despite the steep price point. So it's always good when you're kind of like number one whiskey you were hunting for the year ends up on your shelf. And again, I don't know what it was. I'm a fan of Old Grandad products. And when I finally heard they were releasing like a premium version of Old Grandad, I just had to get my hands on one. So the next logical step after that is, hide this over here, what is a bottle that you were hunting for and didn't get a chance to buy? For me, it was, bam, Maker's Mark Cellar Aged. So I've actually had Maker's Mark Cellar Aged in samples from this great community, and I loved it. I'm a general fan of Maker's Mark products, and so I like to get like their wood finishing series. I like to have those on the shelf. I like their store picks. Anything cask strength from Maker's Mark I think is great. And so the cellar aged one, kind of a hyper aged premium version of Maker's Mark, kind of like the Old Grandad, that was just something that immediately, I was into. Again, luckily I've been able to have samples of the 2023. I've not had the 2024, but I was just kind of keeping my eyes out for either one of those years I'd love to have on the shelf. So unfortunately, did not get a chance to buy that one, but still looking for it. I doubt I'll get one by the end of this year, so I think it's pretty safe to put it on this list as a swing and a miss for me in the bourbon hunting. So anyway, get rid of that. Next up on the list, this is a category where over time, I think people's kind of tastes and interests in different kinds of whiskeys kind of grow, and maybe stuff you used to be into, you're not quite as into anymore, and maybe stuff you didn't like before, you're into now, or maybe something that you've always liked just really, really grew on you even more. That's this category. What's a whiskey you've just absolutely grown to love over the course of this last year? And for me, It's bam, Jack Daniel's single barrel proof rye. Over the course of the last probably year especially, I've really grown to love high proof ryes. It took me a while to kind of get a little more into the rye side of American whiskey, away from bourbon. I'm still a bourbon guy overall, but decently aged high proof ryes, I have just really been loving for the most part. This one, I don't know what the availability is of this in, nationwide, but in Minnesota, this has become readily available through the course of the last year. And so I've been picking these up. The first one we got was actually from Steve Joe's, sent us a bottle towards the end of the year last year, and we absolutely loved it. And then they started selling these in Minnesota, and so I've been making sure I keep one of these on the shelf at all times. I honestly believe for the $65 to $70 you pay for this, it's one of the best values in all of American whiskey. And I think this competes with tons of allocated stuff. Like, this may be one of the better whiskeys available on the shelf, again, in Minnesota, that I can think of. It's really tough to beat this one. These are excellent. So if you haven't been trying these and you have the opportunity, make sure you do that. Okay, so the next one. What is the best whiskey you had this year? And so for this one is another one that I got as a sample. This one was from Non-Bike Riding Dave Vogelsang, and it is BAM Russell's Reserve 15. This was in competition with another sample, was the Murray Hill Club Special Release 4. But I think the Russell's Reserve 15 for me was just, I'm a Wild Turkey fan, and that one, it was just so deep and rich. And for it not being a finished whiskey, the reason I kind of went back and forth, because the Murray Hill Club was excellent, and it's definitely one of the top whiskeys I had this year. But I was just so impressed with the Russell's 15. That thing was just so deep and rich and flavorful. And I think just everything about that whiskey was perfect. It was literally one of the best bourbons I've had. And so, yeah, that one, I definitely was looking for a bottle of that as well. And swing and a miss on that one too. So again, I think I'm probably close enough to the end of the year that one is also not going to end up on my shelf, but I'll still continue looking. But the reason I didn't put that in my whiskey I was looking for the most is because I knew it was going to be my best whiskey I had this year. So I didn't want to have it in two categories, but I was also hunting that one as well. So yeah, for the best one I had this year, Russell's 15 is going to take the cake on that. All right, get that out of here. So this next one, I should have almost saved this for last. It's second to last because I imagine half of you are going to shut the video off and unsubscribe after this. So this is your biggest letdown. Now, to preface this, before you send your hate mail, this doesn't necessarily have to mean it was a bad whiskey. Could have been a really good whiskey. Maybe you were just let down because of hype or because of price or availability or any of those things. A letdown doesn't always mean bad. And in this case, letdown does not mean bad. This is definitely not a bad whiskey. It's a really good whiskey. I just don't think it lived up to, I don't know, if it was hype, if it was price, if it was availability. I hate to do it because I just said I'm a Wild Turkey fan, but bam, it's the Wild Turkey Jimmy Russell 70th anniversary. Again, I just want to reiterate, this is a great whiskey. I really like it, but this is also one of those ones that I really had my eye on, really wanted to get a bottle of desperately. I was told that this was supposed to be a wide release, but then cases of it weren't showing up at stores. And so I think that there was some shenanigans going on with that, maybe, I don't know, behind the scenes, but I did talk to a guy at a liquor store, and we were talking, and I had mentioned that, Wild Turkey had said there should be enough of this to go around, and it just doesn't seem that way. And that's not the whiskey's fault. But the other thing is that, a lot of people were really kind of hyping this one up, maybe not saying it was wildly different, but certainly better than Standard 101. And maybe I just have a trash palate. According to Troy from Baker Drinks, that's definitely a possible reason for this. Shout out to Baker Drinks. But I did a blind between this, the regular 101 Shelfer, and a Camp Nelson Kentucky Spirit, and this came in second place to the regular Shelfer. And to be honest, I said in that video that when it came down to those two, it was really a toss-up. I wasn't noticing a huge difference between them. Certainly not a big enough difference to justify the $50 to $70 price point. I think I paid $60 for this, which I think is about MSRP, $50 to $60. And so, yeah, this one just kind of, you know, again, it's not the whiskey's fault that it got hyped up, but it just didn't live up to it. So it was a bit of a letdown for me. I heard a lot of people saying that they buy these and back them up whenever they get a chance to. I don't feel the need to do that. I'm fine just having this one, and, you know, when it's gone, and I'm fine with that. So get that out of the way. And the last one, your biggest surprise of the year. And I suppose this could go in any direction. Feel free to do with this what you want. Maybe your biggest surprise, whiskey turned out to be much better than you thought. Maybe your biggest surprise turned out to be worse than you thought. Maybe it did well in a blind. However you want to go with this one, I'll leave that up to you. I'm going to go with my biggest surprise of something that just I don't have on the shelf because I actually just killed the bottle last weekend, but it is, bam, Old Forester 100 proof. I was about to say before I put the bottle up here, this year, this whiskey was just the little whiskey that could. I did a video reviewing it, asking, you know, is this the best, you know, budget-friendly shelfer on the market? A lot of people seem to think it's at least in the top couple. And so this bottle gets a lot of love on WhiskeyTube as just being kind of a great budget-friendly utility bourbon. You can do anything with it. It's great to sip neat. It's great in cocktails. And for me, this year, it also did well in blinds. I started a new series called Barrel versus Batch, where I pin a batch product, the regular batch shelfer, versus a single barrel product of the same brand and roughly the same proof. In this case, it was the same proof, and I paired the Old Forester 100 Shelfer against the Old Forester Single Barrel 100. And it was a really, really close call, but the Old Forester Shelfer came out on top. And, you know, for the, I think $50 to $60 that the Old Forester Single Barrel 100s are supposed to be, I paid $80 for it, not knowing that. So kind of that liquor store owner got me on that one, but you know, that one just, it was close enough that it definitely didn't warrant that big of a price jump. Not that I won't maybe buy another one of the single barrels, but I think it just highlighted how good the Old Forester 100 Shelfer is. And the other blind I did with it was against the Early Times Bottled in Bond Black Cap, which is one of my all-time favorite bourbons, and the new Sazerac version of Early Times Bottled in Bond, the Blue Cap. And the Old Forester won. Typically, Early Times Bottled in Bond Black Cap wins out if it's in a blind with damn near anything of, you know, kind of equal proof and equal, you know, I mean, I'm not putting it up against, you know, premium allocated stuff. Not that allocated always means great, but it always does well when it battles against similar proof bourbons, just because I like that brown form and profile. Old Forester 100 has that same profile as Early Times Bottled in Bond. And since the Black Cap is now, you know, drying up on shelves and is going to now be the Blue Cap version that I didn't like quite as much, it was nice to see that in the blind, the Old Forester 100 beat the Early Times Bottled in Bond Black Cap. I think I did do a previous live stream blind a long time ago where the Black Cap came out on top and the Old Forester 100 got second place. But they're close enough that for me, since I can't get the Early Times Bottled in Bond in Minnesota anyway, and the Black Cap is going away, Old Forester 100 comes slamming home with the win, so I can still get a bourbon that I like just as much. So anyway, folks, that's my sort of year-end list. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Again, put your answers down in the comments, and if you've got a channel and you're watching this video, please make a video of your own with these same categories. Tag me in it. I'd love to see your answers. And please like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. This has been the year-end random list on the Bourbon Note. I'm Ben. We'll see you on the next one.